Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do my reading goals video. So every year around November, December time, I tend to do a video where I revisit the goals that I made for the particular year and look ahead into the future year to come and some of the reading goals I want to work on in the upcoming year. Of course, 2020 was a strange year for all of us, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't really prioritize those reading goals throughout the year as much as we maybe thought we would, because this year just made everything else seem a little less important. However, I thought that I would look back on the goals that I made for 2020 and tell you about the goals that I have for 2021. A lot of them are sort of a continuation of the goals that I have for 2020. So, firstly, we look back into the goals I made for 2020. So, of course, one of the goals was Curious Adventure. This is a nonfiction reading challenge that I started actually last year. I did a nonfiction reading challenge that I just called that, and basically it was, I think, 16 challenges, like read a new release or read a pop science book, that kind of thing. Basically a bingo. And I did all of those challenges, had a lot of fun doing it, and so for 2020 I wanted to make it more of a community thing, so I changed the structure a little bit and called it Curious Adventure. So Curious Adventure is 12 challenges that you are encouraged to do, and they are much more open than the previous year's version was. I'm not finished with this one yet, but I know that I will definitely get to it before the end of the year because it's fairly easy for me. So going forward for next year, I'm not planning to do a similar thing. First of all, I find it difficult to keep up with creating a community thing on my own. You'll see with one of my other goals that I have another project lined up that will sort of take the place for this one for me. So I think for me mainly, both the Curious Adventure and the previous year's version, the nonfiction reading challenge, the purpose for me was to get me to read more nonfiction and to broaden my horizons within nonfiction, because I discovered that most of what I was reading was within the same category, basically personal memoirs. That was the main gist of what I was reading, and some nature nonfiction. When I first started doing this, I was reading, I think, about 30% nonfiction, and currently I'm at the point where I've held the 50-50 split throughout 2020, and it's not very difficult for me to keep up because I really naturally gravitate towards nonfiction now. The other aspect of it was to broaden the actual genres or types of nonfiction I was reading, and I definitely feel like I've been doing that this year. I've been reading memoirs, of course, because that is a big part of what I am drawn to. I like to read about personal stories. But I've been reading a lot of science-related nonfiction this year, like, for example, of course, the space nonfiction that I mentioned a few times. I've been reading some history-type books, some biographies. I just feel like, in general, my nonfiction reading is much more all over the place, and in a good way for me. I've been reading some like anthologies or that kind of thing. I've been reading some more on the legal side of things. The main purpose for me with the challenges was just to sort of force myself to prioritize other things that maybe isn't as easy to read as memoirs are for me, because I think a memoir doesn't really require a lot from me as a reader. I feel like I very easily get lost into another person's life. But with, for example, physics related things, it usually requires more work from me because I find physics harder to grasp. So because, as I said, my nonfiction relationship has changed so much, I just feel like this sort of goal has sort of served its purpose, and as soon as I finish Curious Adventure, I will sort of put that aside. Obviously you won't, I will continue to make nonfiction related content, that won't change, because it is still a big part of my reading. I'm thinking I will do a final wrap up for the ones that I have left. The second challenge I had was something I called mapping the lit. Basically, I wanted to read more world literature, or read more books in translation, read more Swedish books, and this is one of the goals that I've been severely neglecting all through the year, especially after the pandemic. I was sort of working towards it with the Man Booker International long list being announced, and bought several of the books on the long list, and was completely planning to read through them all, and it just was one of the things that ended up being put to the side, and I haven't really gotten back to it. But this one, this goal is still really important to me, hence why it's related to one of the goals that I have for next year. The last goal is another one of those that I had a good goal and I did not work on it very much because of this year being what it was, and that was to it was sort of a mix between decrease my TBR and buy less books. The buy less books I've sort of gotten into now in the last few months, I want to say. Since July, I think, I've been buying a lot less books. There is several reasons I want to both decrease my TBR and buy less books, and they are sort of linked. Of course, one of the things is to save money, but most of it is a space and sort of quality related aspect. So space being that I have a limited space for bookshelves, and they are completely full now. They are completely to the brink full. I want to be able to see all of the books that I have and not have to double stack anything. The other part of it is that a large part of my book collection is unread books, and I wish that there was a more even split between read and unread. It's mainly just that I want it to better reflect my reading tastes, and of course, if I've read a book, I know if I like it, so I will keep only books that I'm interested in. At the moment, my library is not really a representative of my reading tastes, because a lot of them I don't know if I like them or not. So that is more of a long-term goal. I want to have more of my shelves being read books that I've enjoyed, and that I can also see them as potential for rereads, just as much as I can pick up an unread book. So that is my long-term goal, keeping that balance, or aiming towards that balance. Let's talk about 2021. So as I said, Curious Adventure, as soon as I finish it, that will be done with. And the thing that will replace that as a reading project that I will be focusing on in the new year is Invisible Cities. This is a reading project that I'm doing with a bunch of people that I consider my friends. I really enjoy talking books with them. And we are doing a translated literature project where we are going to be selecting 3 countries each month and read books from those countries. So that will mean that the goal I had for 2020 in reading more world literature will be will be something I strive for through this reading project. I'm really excited about it. I will link the announcement video for this below. I feel like it will give me some structure to my entire year and have a strict goal for what I'm hoping to read each month, but also just having the group of people to read this with, and hopefully some of you will want to join us. I think the community aspect will make it a lot more fun, both with world literature and the reading project in general. I think it's much easier to do and to be inspired to do it with other people involved as well, and to have that sort of group support. So that is a big part of my 2021 plan. The other thing is the TBR. So basically I would like to decrease my TBR and buy less books. That's still a goal. And I think I will maybe do like regular check-ins with with sort of updates of how that is going. At the moment, my biggest challenge isn't that I'm buying a lot of books, because as I said, that is starting to change habit-wise. The problem is that I'm reading a lot of other books that I don't actually own, so mainly library books. Because of that, it means that I read less of my own books. So that is something I want to have as a clear goal next year, to always initially reach for my own books. I haven't really thought of the specifics, but I want to have some kind of structure that makes me prioritize my own books constantly throughout the year, so that the TBR decreasing actually happens, that it continues to cycle and continues to move, because that has been the main problem this year, that I've been continuing to buy books, continuing to read books, but I've just not been reading as many from my own books as I could have. So that is something that I'm going to be working on in 2021. And obviously I don't want to read, I don't want to live without library books, because I love libraries and I love to support my libraries. So I think I just need to make sure that I first always prioritize my own books and have more of editions from libraries instead of the other way around, which has been the case with 2020. So as I said, I'm not quite sure how I want to do like video updates or anything about this, but if you have any specific requests of TBR related content, then definitely let me know below. I think I will at least start with maybe in the beginning of the year do a little bit of a close-up of my TBR shelves, and maybe give you some ideas of books that I would like to read sooner rather than later. The last one is not a structure goal, it's more of a mentality thing, and that is I want to follow the path more. I did a video a few years back, I think it must have been at least 3 years ago, that I called Follow the Path. The point of it was that I was reading a book, actually it was the End of Mr. Y. That book referenced another book, or specifically I think it referenced a short story by Edgar Allan Poe. So when I had read The End of Mr. Y, I read the short story by Poe, and in the short story another book was referenced, so I read that book as well, and it was just sort of this following the reference links within literature. You could call it follow the path in terms of making sort of links between different types of books or the same sort of topic. You could call it go down a rabbit hole. It's sort of the same thing really. Doing deep dives of things and allowing yourself to follow a path that seems to be there. Often when I've done things like this, just focusing in on one theme or topic or genre, like with the space nonfiction, just going down that rabbit hole of reading space related things and sort of making connections and creating a web of knowledge, that has been so fun. And one of the things that I have always loved about reading, the point of this goal really is that sometimes I think I can get a bit sidetracked with all of the projects I want to do, all of the buddy reads I'm doing with other people, and I mean I am very easily sort of drawn into other people's enthusiasm. I find it very contagious when someone is passionate about something, when they're enjoying something, when they have an exciting idea or a new project. And so I often jump into various things and I'm just so busy trying to keep track of everything I'm doing that sometimes I think I don't follow what I particularly want to do myself. It's hard to explain this goal because it's more of a mentality and something I'm thinking of from my own perspective as a reader. Obviously the two other goals I have are more structure based, and I think this goal is sort of the opposite. I want to let go of structure from time to time, and if I have to put those aside for a little bit just to be able to follow a path once in a while, I think that would be okay. So that is my revisiting of my 2020 goals and my look ahead into 2021 and what I want to focus in on in my reading life. Let me know if you have made any reading goals this year and how they went, or if you have thought about your goals for the next year to come. I hope you are doing well and you're taking care of yourselves. I will talk to you soon.